We begin today with a look at gun violence in the U.S. More than 47,000 Americans died from gun violence in 2023. That's according to the latest data from the CDC. While the number of gun deaths in the U.S. fell for the second consecutive year, it remained among the highest annual totals on record. So far this year, there have been 145 mass shootings in the U.S., leaving at least 125 people dead and hundreds injured, and that's according to the Gun Violence Archive, an organization that tracks gun violence. It's been nearly 4 years since a gunman opened fire at Oxford High School, killing 4 students and injuring several others. Today here on First at 4, we welcome one of the survivors of that shooting to our show as we highlight Gun Violence Awareness Month. We want to welcome Madeline Johnson and thank Madeline for joining us here today on First at 4. Welcome to our show, Madeline.
Thank you so much for having me.
Madeline, you know, most people have not witnessed or been victim of or survived a mass shooting. Explain for us and our audience how the actions of the shooter on that day who opened fire at your high school back in 2021 has impacted your life.
Yeah, so I want to start off by saying that there isn't really a way in which my life hasn't been impacted by this. I was in the building that day, and I just finished my AP statistics class, and I was walking with my best friend Madison to her next class. When I realized I was going to be late for my own, I turned around to say goodbye to her, and just as she turned the corner to head to her next class is when the shooting began. And I had no choice but to run for my life down the hall as I was not able to make it into any classroom. When I got outside, I ducked behind a car in the parking lot and I called my mom, and my dad rushed to the school to pick up me and my younger brother, who was also there. After arriving home, I sent text messages to all of my friends in the school. Most were still barricaded in classrooms and had to wait hours to be evacuated. The only person who wasn't responding to me was Madison, and I found out sometime in the afternoon that she had been killed. In the aftermath, it took me a long time to be able to enter public spaces again, and to this day, I'm still learning how to navigate life with the PTSD and the grief that I now carry with me. I think what most people don't realize is that this is something that is going to impact me and my community for the rest of our lives. The effects of November 30th were not just limited to that day or that year. This is something that has changed the entire course of thousands.
Yeah, and Madeline, you mentioned suffering from some PTSD and just how this has impacted you. What would you say has been the most difficult part of your recovery journey so far?
I think the most difficult part of my recovery journey has been watching it happen over and over again, and watching as absolutely nothing changes in this country. Gun violence prevention advocates in Michigan have done a lot of hard work on legislation such as safe storage laws, and I don't want to discredit myself and my friends for that work. But on the federal level, we can see that there hasn't been much change. Our government has refused to treat this epidemic like a crisis, and instead elected leaders focus on making it easier for people to buy weapons rather than implementing protections to keep people safe. So I would say the most difficult part of my recovery has been to learn that many leaders in this country value easy access to firearms more than our lives.
And I know that you are the co-president of a youth organization called No Future Without Today. It was founded and it's run by survivors of the Oxford High School shooting. Tell us how your organization advocates for the end of gun violence here in America, and what is your goal, and is that your goal, the end of gun violence in America?
Yes, ultimately that is our goal. No Future Without Today is a youth-led group. Like you mentioned, we are nonpartisan, and we are founded by student survivors of the Oxford High School shooting. And we came together to advocate for necessary legislative change in order to prevent other young people from going through what we. Our main goals are to advocate for life-saving gun reform measures, to educate people on the importance of gun reform policy, and to provide students and parents with opportunities to get involved with experience in lobbying and advocacy hands-on. We also strongly believe in remembering and honoring the lives of those we lost to gun violence, including the 4 students who were killed in our school.
One of which, whom you were with just moments before that shooting took place. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. And what message, Madeline, would you like to share with the community about the impact of gun violence on our society?
Yeah, so as we all know, gun violence is the leading cause of death in children and teens in this country. And to me and many others, it's sad that we even have to have an entire month dedicated to ending a crisis that can significantly be reduced or eliminated if our elected officials would take a stand and prioritize our safety. Um, so I just want to say for all the gun owners out there, please make sure you're being responsible with your weapons and storing them safely. And I also ask that everyone remembers Tate, Hannah, Justin, and Madison, and all the other loved ones we've lost to senseless, preventable violence. I also want to point out that No Future Without Today is a part of a coalition called End Gun Violence Michigan. And with the help of gun violence prevention organizations in churches around Michigan, they host a month of action each June called Silence the Violence. Events happen each week in June around the state, including educational seminars, marches, and remembrance events. On June 28th, No Future Without Today is hosting our fourth annual March with Oxford, and this year we are centering youth voices within the movement, and we will hear from guest speakers before marching to Oxford High School. So please march with us if you are able, or attend another Silence the Violence event to do your part in preventing gun violence.
Madeline, thanks so much for your courage today and talking about that incident that has significantly impacted your life. We'll make sure we get a link up to your event coming up on the 28th. Thanks so much, and we are wishing you all of the best here at ABC 12.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.